Hello, folks. Thanks for joining us here today. I'm Chris Van Weerden from the Domino team. We're going to spend a little bit of time walking you through some of the new things that we have added this past January as part of our winter 2025 release for our Domino One authoring product. In case you're new to Domino and just curious and haven't learned much about us, but let me move some things around here. So, yeah, here at Domino, we provide Domino One, our web-based collaborative authoring platform for traditional slides e-learning or responsive e-learning, job aids, knowledge bases, all kinds of opportunities for learning content to be pulled and developed from one centralized authoring platform. We also have our Convey dynamic content delivery service that helps you deliver content to your LMS for dynamic content updates, and also providing direct learning access to your learners for things that really don't belong in your LMS. Those might be those knowledge bases or job aids, things that you might not be wanting to or caring about tracking completion, but you're trying to help people in the flow of work and provide them with access and tools and the information that they need in order to do their jobs. So that's a bit about us. So what are we going to work through? We have added a new recycle bin for deleted elements, new divider elements for flow pages, an improved list element that you can use on content on your pages, and then some smaller improvements, some incremental things, a new style for accordion menus, a new storyline profile for HTML widgets, new darken setting for images set as section backgrounds in flow content, and a new scroll and fade animation as a default setting in flow themes, letting you control the overall appearance, animation appearance of content in flow projects. So let me bring Domino One over here to the screen and we'll start walking through some of these things. So the new recycle bin. So we've always had, or we've long had an option that, or a feature that where if you deleted a page from a project, whether that's Claro or which is our slides-based e-learning authoring option, or Flow, or responsive design authoring option. When you've deleted a page, it's not deleted, it's moved over to a deleted pages list, and it's always there. So if you ever wanted it back a year from now even, you could come and return it back into your project. And we've now implemented a similar feature for elements on a page called the recycle bin. So if I go over to the recycle bin for this page here, you can see that, in prep for today's time together, I deleted a couple of dividers. There was a slide and a content carousel that was deleted. And I'll take a moment and go to a different page and just show you how the recycle bin stacks up there. So there are other things that have been deleted off of this page here. So if I wanted to delete something from the page, I can simply select it, come up to the delete option, confirm that I do want to delete it, and now it's been added over here in the recycle bin. If I select it over in the recycle bin, I can preview it to make sure that I know exactly what that icon was. I could permanently delete it if I really knew that I wanted it to be gone, or I could restore a copy of it back into the page. And so if I wanted to restore a copy of it, in the case of Flow, back to where it belongs, I'm going to select the element that used to be below it, click Restore a Copy, and now I can put it back right where it was. It's a copy. The original thing that was deleted is never actually removed from the recycle bin. It's there until you choose to do housekeeping, just as an extra safety feature. Some other things about this: if you have content on your page that is multiple parts, so an image that has a marker added to it, or a tab set that's got, say, 3 tabs with text elements on it, on each of them, for instance, you can see all of those parts, and I could return the whole tab set. If I had a tab set on the page, I could return just one of the tabs as a tab in an existing tab set. So, or even just the text from that one tab could be added as text anywhere on the page. So a very granular level of flexibility with the recycle bin here. It's available in multiple places just to make sure you can always find it. It probably most prominently to find it though is the recycle bin option here. It's also on the home tab. It's up under our edit options as well. And if you are working with the ribbon closed, column over here also has access to the recycle bin as well. So that's the new recycle bin. I've already had a couple of use cases where it's come in handy for me for sure, and been very helpful. Second new feature that we've added, brand spanking new features, are new dividers that you can add on your page. So I have a simple one here, a line divider, but there are multiple different versions of dividers that you can have. If I go to the Insert tab, onto the dividers drop down, I could have a divider that's just simply a spacer. I'm looking particularly in flow content, responsive design content, to add a little bit of space, control a bit of the display. And then the dividers here, line dividers with 3 different styles. You can see a straight line divider on the page already. Numbered dividers that are intelligent. So the first one you add will say 1, the second you add will say 2, 3, 4 on the same page, for example. And then a set of continue dividers that can help you actually gate content. So the learner has to complete something above the divider before they can actually continue on in the project or in the current page that they're working in. And those can be set up as, I'm going to call them simple or straightforward continue dividers, or as continue dividers with progress bars on them. Let me pop this project into a full project review, and we'll take a look at those dividers in action before we go and take a look at how they're set up. So I mentioned there's a simple line divider there, and I could change its style. But if I scroll down a little bit further in this content, there's a completion divider that's been added here. And I can't go further down this page, even though there's more content here, until I've completed working through the content carousel. Now I can click the continue button, and I can move on into the remaining content on this page. Now, another continue divider here, but there's actually nothing on this page that's past this. It's just at the very bottom of the page. And in this context, it becomes a next button, which takes me over to the next page. So when I've added a divider to my page, I can use the configure your divider panel to set things up. Any of the dividers that you put on can actually be switched to be any of the other types. We've got a line divider here, and if I go to the style option, I could choose to make it with a small V or a large V. I can also change the color setting based on the branding colors that have been set up for my project in what we call the theme. So now I've got the arrow and the small triangle pointing down to help sort of guide people to think about actually scrolling down. The continue dividers have a lot of setup stuff, so you can decide what is going to have to be completed, just the things that are above it, completing the entire page, or you might just want to show the continue button just at the bottom of a page as another helpful way for the learner to navigate, particularly in a flow page, which can be quite long. They wouldn't have to go back up to the top of the page in order to navigate forward. We have in Domino 1 pre-translated language strings, and that's what we're seeing here for the label. So the word continue is already pre-translated for you. So if you're making a project that's going to need to be published in multiple languages, that's already translated for you. You can choose with the label here to change it to another text string, and in that case, it's actually then included in the text export that we do for our translation processes as well. And down here, the instruction text. So that's what the learner will see before they've completed the content, the instructions that they'll need. And you can customize that to whatever phrasing might make most sense for yourself, for your organization. And then a couple of behaviors here. When they've completed the content and then click the continue button, do you want to show a line on the page still, so that there's still a visual support for that kind of space break that you're trying to introduce to the page, or just hide it completely? Maybe you don't need that. On the style tab over here, there are 3 different styles for the continue dividers, and again, color controls based on the branding set up for the course or the project that you're working on. And if we want this continue divider to be a progress divider, we can turn on the progress functions, and now we've got a couple 3 different design options here available for us as well. So the dividers, a lot of flexibility, a lot of really neat functionality. They can simply be, visual design options um, to help provide a greater sense of structure of your page, particularly for longer scrolling pages. And they can also then be used for this gating content of making sure that people complete things before they can move on further down on the page or even move to the next page. Maybe one thing we'll do before we leave dividers behind is we will switch that divider up to a numbered divider so that you can see it. Number of different styles for the number dividers as well. So those are the 2 brand new, completely new features that we've added to Domino One as part of our winter 2025 feature release. We've also tweaked out a number of other features as well, improved some things. We've had a tremendous focus in the past year on ease of use, making things simpler for authors to work with. We're a tool that has a heck of a lot of power and a heck of a lot of possibility, but it's also sometimes a great deal of complexity. So we've been focusing on simplifying some of the things that you can do in the tool. One of those things is that we have an element that you can add to your page for stylized lists. You can, of course, add a bulleted list or a numbered list to any content that's in a text element. But in addition to that, we have these stylized list elements. So what's new here is that we can actually choose a preset styling option as part of adding the list. So maybe let's add a styled numbers list here. And then to edit the list content, we pop in here. I can do simple text editing, or if I wanted to add a greater degree of formatting, maybe make the number bold, I can open up the formatting panel here. And I'm a sucker for consistency, so let's make each of these bold as well. On the options tab, each of the styles, I chose the styled numbers, but I've got some options here. It can go with the default circles or open circles or squares. Let's flip it over to open circles. And again, I've got access here to set this list to reflect the branding colors that are set up for this project. And in fact, kind of like the dividers, I can also switch these list elements to any of the other styles that are available as well, if I wanted to. If I decided I've changed my mind, I don't have to remove it and add another one in. So a lot of really nice flexibility there. So that's that list element sorted out. Let's try another one here. Let's go with checkboxes, and I'm going to put it in this space over here. You can see the checkboxes over here. I won't play with the text here, but maybe we want rounded checkboxes, and maybe this time we want to match our green branding color. So some really nice tweaks that we've added to this. We've had this element for a number of years already, but the setup that we've got now going, making it easier to choose a style right off the bat, a little more flexibility with how you edit and work on them. A really nice time saver for our authoring teams that do make a lot of use of these list elements to be able to present items and content to their learning audience. Another new thing that we've added as part of the winter release is a new style for accordion menus. On the left here, I've got the existing style, the previously existing style. And on the right here is an example of the new style. I'm going to put the page into preview and just show you the 2 accordions. live and in action so that you can get a sense of how they are different. So you can see that the previously existing style has kind of a header panel, darker or alternate or contrasting color, and then body. The new style has a little sort of a overall cleaner interface if you want to go with that cleaner design. When I select the accordion menu and I'm taken to the options tab for setting up, I've got now the two different style options, so I can very easily switch between one and the other if I want. Makes it really clean and simple that way. And these also do tie into the theme colors. We're seeing sort of a neutral, for instance, gray over here, but we can pick the any of the design colors that are set up as part of the branding as well. And in fact, one of the secrets, I guess you might say, about our accordion menus is that they are also actually functionally the same as a tab set. So if you're working in responsive content, you might have a tab set on the page, and when the page becomes narrower, it can automatically respond and change to an accordion menu on the page to create a different, perhaps better learning experience for someone who's viewing the content on a narrow device, like a smartphone held vertically. One of the other things we've added, if I go over to what we call our Engage tab, and over here, HTML widgets. So there are some things that can be done in other tools that people might want to include as content in a Domino One project, either in Claro or Flow-based content. And certainly when Domino One was a less mature product and had less interactive functionality available, it was a feature that a lot of client teams would use to bring in things that they'd made either as custom HTML options, objects, etc. One of the things, the idea with an HTML widget is that there's an HTML, main HTML page and then a number of assets, and you upload it onto the page, and then it's displayed in an iframe on the page, either in Claro or Flow. And one of the things that we've been finding is that we do find folks wanting to be able to bring in widgets from Storyline content. So you can publish from Storyline, bring it into the Domino One page that you're working on, and upload it as a widget. And so as part of that, we've created a simpler workflow so that the upload process actually detects that the content has been brought in from Storyline, and then actually sets a number of presets then for display properties and behaviors, etc., so that the author doesn't even have to think about those. Really nice workflow. We know that we've had a lot of client teams bringing content to Domino One, particularly from Rise-based projects. We do have a conversion process that can let you, we can help you bring your Rise content into Domino One as Flow projects. And when we do notice that there are often Storyline blocks in the Rise content. So this helps accommodate that so much quicker and easier than having to deal with the custom settings that we do for a standard HTML widget. One of the features we have in Domino One's Flow authoring option, because of the nature of content being built in sections on the page, to help accommodate the responsive design that Flow supports. We've long had the ability to add images as backgrounds in the background behind sections on the page. And so I'm going to go to this section here, its settings, and add an image. And now it's been added, but you can see I've got the golden text that I need for my brand standard for title and subtitle, for example, but there's not a lot of contrast. The image is actually very similar tones and it's hard to read. So a small thing, but really nice to have added is this new darken option, automatically adding a dark filter on the image so that in this case I get more contrast and my titles punch out further. Really will save our authoring teams a lot of time. They don't have to take an image, upload it and realize that the contrast isn't very strong, pull it down and then do something to it in Photoshop or another tool, and then re-upload it. That darken filter is really quite handy. Really does help things punch out quite a bit and quite nicely as well. One of the concepts that we have in Domino One is the idea that you're working on content on a page. And if I take this project into a full project preview, the pages that you make are being displayed then within a player, in this case, this top navigation bar, which then the player controls the learner's navigation through the content. And we have a number of different options for this. Things that are fairly traditional e-learning, like what we're seeing here with forward and back buttons to navigate from page to page, but also for supporting other content uses, like a searchable knowledge base theme that you can use for your content. Gives learners an instantly accessible search field to be able to find the content in the knowledge base project to help them if they're trying to answer a question or solve a problem, for example, in the flow of work, as well as themes that help support job aid type content, etc. So things beyond just the standard e-learning course that you might load up into your LMS. One of the core ideas with the theme is that it's also in charge of a lot of the display and properties of the project. So the theme is where you set up your branding, for example, and your fonts and those sorts of things. And one of the things that we've done with the theme options, with this round of feature improvements, is that we've added, it's a real simple thing, but it gives a really nice touch to what you're doing to what your learners are experiencing on a flow-based project. So under the branding, we can turn on a setting to enable scroll and fade animations. So this becomes a global and universal experience for the learner. Everything that's on every page will, as they scroll down in a flow page, appear with a small subtle fade effect. It really brings the page nicely to life. You can actually apply custom animations to any element that you want, but you would be doing that on a one-by-one basis. But this gives you a standardized look and feel as the learner is navigating the content. And I'll pop this back in a full project preview and give you a glimpse of what that's all about. So watch down the bottom of the page as things are scrolling into view. You'll see a very small, very subtle, but the content carousel is probably the most dramatic experience of that. But a fade effect here as we're scrolling down gives the page a little extra oomph, a little extra bit of life, a bit of visual interest, versus being a flat page that everything is just there for the learner as they scroll down. Nice little touch. And previous to this, you could set this up, but you'd be doing it on all elements. You'd be setting all of the elements individually to have their fade effects. And this brings this to a more universal, simpler to set up, easier to put into motion context. So the focus for our winter release has been on, a lot of it has been on improving and tweaking some things that you can do in Flow. Things like the list elements and the recycle bin, they're both available in Claro and Flow based projects. But other things like the dividers, Flow only, this fade effect, the section background darken feature, those are all things that are focused on helping us take Flow content up a notch, both for simpler authoring, simpler editing, making things a bit easier to use, but also making a nicer end product for your learners to be able to experience as well. So we've worked through all of the things that we wanted to cover here today. Folks, thanks so much for your time here today. Really appreciate you joining us and having some interest in what we've added as part of our winter feature release. We do releases as frequently as possible throughout the year, always looking to improve the product, whether those are functions around authoring and ease of use, or more extended feature sets, for your organization as a whole. Things like helping your authors be grouped up into teams and your content be grouped up into collections, and making your registration and access privileges tied into those groupings, for example. Those were some features that we rolled out in our 7.4.4 release back at the end of the summer. So always on the go, always on the move, always working on new things. Thank you so much for your time here today. Really appreciate that you've been with us, and look forward to catching up with you again soon.